can I get your thoughts on China? I mean, again, you've been around, your SAL conferences has a lot of people talking about these things. China playing out in the next 10 years versus global economy, US economy, blockchain, Bitcoin. What do you think will happen?
Well, listen, the Chinese are an incredible group of people. It's an amazing culture. What's happened in China over the last 40 years, nothing short of an economic miracle. I don't think anybody could have bet the growth of where China is today as a result of that miracle. There are some underlying fissures going on there. There's a battle over the ecology of China in terms of the carbon emission. I think half of the dirtiest cities in the world are there. There's a battle over the ideas in the information marketplace. There's a suppression of free speech, and I think that has a large portion of the population upset about that. And if you really study China, there are 7 reasonably strong balkanized provinces that are held together by the Chinese Communist Party. Will that hold? Well, I'm a student of history. I know you're a student of history. Single party rule typically lasts 70 years. Think of the Soviet Union, lasted about 70 years. The Japan, after the war, lasted about 70 years. Mexico, they had roughly a 70-year one-party rule before it flipped. Malaysia, 3 or 4 years ago, 70-year party rule flipping. And so these things typically last about 70 years. What ends up happening is there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of disfavor going on. And then ultimately people want change. They want to go in a different direction. Now, the Chinese must be feeling the heat of that because they're doing things that look like a global retrenchment. They've banned their Bitcoiners. They kicked out their miners. They're punishing their capitalists. Jack Ma disappeared. They told Didi, don't list. If you're going to list, now we're going to take your app away on the Chinese app stores. And so what's happening is, in order to preserve the power structure in China, they're offering up more repression as opposed to more freedom. So the irony of that is that could backfire, because in a global society with this level of information and this level of exchange of ideas, if you're pressurizing and repressing at a time when others are liberating, that could create a backlash. Now, having said that, I respect the Chinese. I plan on doing a conference there. I want there to be a strong bilateral relationship with the United States and with the West. I certainly don't want there to be a conflict. I respect their rise. And if it's a peaceful rise, God bless. If it's a rise with levels of antagonism, I would tell you that that would be very bad for the world and very bad for the United States. The Chinese feel that Taiwan is part of Greater China, and they want to absorb Taiwan. If they cross the Taiwan Strait and they invade Taiwan, it's 100% that the United States will have to respond. People will say, well, it's not in our backyard and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? We ceded all of our manufacturing. All of our semiconductors are coming out of Taiwan. If they take Taiwan and cripple the United States, that is bad for every element of every business in the United States. So I don't think the United States is not going to protect Taiwan, which is probably one of the main reasons why there hasn't been an attack there. So, I'm being long-winded, but things don't turn out the way you expect. When you and I were kids, we thought the Soviet Union was going to last forever. There was a permanent state, and it broke down before our eyes when right around our 25th birthday. And China, we look at China as this hegemonic monolith. It may last, but it may not last. Okay, and I also think you've got to look to the United States. If the one-party system's 70 years, Brian, the republics typically only last 200 years. We're about 45 years into overtime, and we haven't had a constitutional amendment in our country of any great significance since the 1960s. And so we had 27 amendments. We should be right-sizing, re-engineering, re-amending ourselves, and we're not. And I think it's causing us to fray, and there's some level of societal strain in the system that we're not renewing ourselves. And so we have to be watchful too. Nothing is permanent. Okay. In every relationship, your relationship with your citizens, if you're in the government, the relationship with your customers, if you're in business, every relationship is subject to the vagaries of life and the vagaries of needs for change. So, China may be in its exact configuration 50 years from now, but it may not. My number one thing is that whatever happens, like with the Soviet Union, it happens peacefully, because the last thing that the world can afford right now is some type of global conflict.